Hello. Hi everybody. I'm going to be starting my wedding question and answer session very shortly. So I thought I would just say hello and wait for a few more people to join us. So I'm just going to sit here and waffle for a few moments, basically, before we get started. We might well be disturbed by one or both of my two cats, as they're both currently sitting watching the foxes in the back garden, so they may well decide to interrupt and you'll see a tail just walking past. Hello Emily. So yeah, I'm just going to wait a few moments, as sometimes it can take a while for people to join. And as you can see today, hi Jack! I hope everybody's having a lovely day, by the way, and bearing up with this really stuffy heat that we have going. As you can see, I have my typical black polka dots. It's the third time this week I'm wearing polka dots. Makes a change. Anyway, I think I will get started. So I just sort of wanted to start the session by just explaining a little bit about my style and my approach to wedding and family photography. As while this question and answers will mostly be about weddings, I have had a few about family photography as well, so I will be answering those too. So just to explain a little bit about my approach, you often hear the term natural used a lot. I think it's quite an overused word when photographers are describing themselves. It is one that I would use to describe myself, and the reason that I do is because my photography, whether it's your wedding or your family session, it really is my job to reflect your wedding or your family session in its best light. So I'm very good at making people feel at ease. It's sort of also about bringing in your editing style as well. So there's quite a trend at the moment for pictures. Sorry. Hi Naomi, she's just joined. There's quite a trend in the way that photographs are edited to be very brown and orange, lots of desaturated greens. And while that can look really cool and stylish if it's done right, it can actually change the colours from your day quite substantially, like your bouquet or any of the other details that you might have. So my editing style is, it really does sort of reflect your day as it happened. So your blues stay blue, your greens stay green. It's just sort of edited to look more polished, I suppose. And that sort of style is reflected in how I photograph you as well on your day, and it's the same whether it's family or wedding, commercial, whatever it might be. It's really very simple in how you not so much pose people, but you use gentle direction, gentle prompts. So I don't make anybody do anything really cheesy or ridiculous, unless that's your thing, of course. Anyway, I think I've been waffling for a while now. So I'm going to move on to the questions. If anybody does have any questions at any point as I'm talking, just pop them in the comments box and I will get to them. Firstly though, I'm going to talk about weddings, obviously, as that's the main sort of part of this question and answer. And I've had quite a few questions come in, which is lovely, and some really good questions as well, so bear with me. But the first one, I've had a couple of questions that a few people have asked actually, and they're probably reflected in some of the questions that you guys are thinking as well, maybe. So the first one is, do you have a list of shots planned and do you organise your group shots for you? Yes to both of those. the reason that I will approach my couple before the day with a list of standard group shots, basically because it helps the smooth running of the day. It makes sure that I will capture pictures of certain family groups or friends that you really want to capture. And it's my job to help you get those people together and put them in all the right places and make sure people are smiling. Hi, Sophie. So yeah, it's my job to make things run as smoothly as possible. So yes, I do ask for work with you to create a list of shots and help you organise people on the day too. And Rachel also asked, can you make specific requests such as a confetti shot? Yes, you can. It's as much as it's my job to document your day as it happens. You may have some special things going on that you perhaps want to set up a little bit more, or make sure that I know exactly where I need to be or who needs to be involved. Hi, Simon. I'm going to try not to say too much today, though I think I've already filled my quota for ums. Anyway, there you go. So yeah, specific requests such as confetti shots or sparkler exits, that kind of thing. Absolutely, yeah, we love a challenge and we love to do things that are a bit different. So yeah, that kind of leads me on to a really good point with your wedding photographer, is to make sure that they ask for a timeline of your day. So most photographers will do this of part of your consultation or your communications. But having a timeline, even if it's just a rough guideline of where your photographer is expected to be, when your ceremony starts, when you sit down for dinner, when your cake and your first dances, as again, that just helps them make your day run smoothly with them. So that's just sort of a little suggestion of mine, is to make sure that you have a timeline in place, and your photographer can also work within that to make sure you have plenty of time for your group shots and your bride and groom portraits, or groom and groom portraits, or bride and bride portraits, as it however might be. So Jack has asked a really good question. What's the hardest part of being a wedding photographer? That's a really good question, and I think the hardest part actually, hi Danielle, I think the hardest part can sometimes actually be in the admin, and that can be making sure that your couple communicate with you as to their timeline, for example. And it really just boils down about making sure that your couple, their expectations are met, so that you know exactly the kind of sort of style they're looking for, the kind of shots that they're looking for, so that ahead of the day you don't turn up on the job, and sometimes there are unexpected things that happen, and that's fine, but for the most part it's your job to make things run smoothly. So sometimes that can be a little bit tricky to work out, but it's our job to do that at the end of the day. But next question is about, do you look at venues before you shoot at them? So yes, as much as I can get to a wedding venue before the day, I absolutely will do that. I like to familiarise myself with where a wedding may be, what the lighting might be like on your day, and also sort of where good areas are for certain shots. Sometimes, if particularly in really busy season over summer, sometimes it's not possible to actually go to the venue before your day. However, I particularly would always make sure that I had some time to have a look before your ceremony starts, before your prep. And also, if you're getting married at a church, it's a really good idea, if your photographer doesn't suggest it themselves, though they probably will, it's a good idea for your photographer to speak to your priest or whoever is conducting your ceremony to make sure that your photographer is comfortable with where they should be standing, and if flash photography is allowed, for example. Some churches don't allow that, so it really comes down to just being prepared there as well. So let me have a quick look. I've had a couple of other questions come in. So Simon has asked, is there a venue that you like most to shoot weddings at? I really enjoy variety. I love going to venues that I haven't been to before. One of I think my favourite venue in Hastings, and I'm a little bit biased here because I got married there. I think my favourite venue in Hastings particularly is the old rectory in the old town. I got married there, and it's not just a really beautiful, intimate space, but the team that work there are absolutely amazing. They just have got it down to a fine art there. You literally don't have anything to worry about. They're very flexible. So I would actually say on that point that when it comes down to choosing your venue, choose somewhere where you feel really comfortable with the team that are helping you organise your day, because that's their role too. Where else have I photographed that I love? I love the George in Rye. Again, that's a very intimate venue, and that it's just very pretty out there. I also I did a wedding at I think it's called St Mary's Community Hall in Udimore. Just the venue there is stunning for a village. If you are looking for sort of a village hall type place, the hall at Udimore it's really quite big. It's well looked after, and it has beautiful views out there. So yeah, I think those are some of my favourites locally anyway. So moving on to a few other questions that are venue related actually. Hannah was asking, do you recommend you do a practice shoot at the venue to scope out best angles and lighting? So I don't think it's necessarily important to do a practice shoot, though going back to sort of past question, if your photographer can check out the venue to scope out those kind of things, absolutely. But your photographer should be well equipped to deal with your venue and find those key spots that are really going to work. And I've had another question on here. So Danielle, hi Danielle. She's actually asked a really great question on sort of the business side of photography. So Danielle has asked, I've done some wedding photography too, fabulous. And she said, would you recommend ever exhibiting in a wedding fair? And if so, do you have any tips? Personally, this might be a bit controversial, but I'm very on the fence about wedding fairs. I have done wedding fairs, and I have lots of photographer friends who have done them. I think they can be brilliant for making connections within the industry, whether it's with wedding planners, makeup artists, other photographers. It's really great for getting connections with other photographers. Other than that, I don't actually think they work in terms of bookings, and that's not just my experience, it's other photographers' experience too. So I would say maybe give one or two a go and see how you get on with them, because you may well have a different experience in terms of bookings. Though yeah, it is brilliant for actually getting connections with other people in the industry, and that can help you get bookings in of itself. So connections are always a good thing to have. So Simon has just said my count is about 100. Yes, it probably is. I am an person. I say a lot. It's a thinking word, so I'm going to keep umming. So my next question, if you're all still with me, is Emily was asking, does all the effort you put into the details matter? Does your photographer even notice? Yes, a good photographer should notice that you've put a lot of effort into your details, your styling of your wedding. I think people are really great at putting personality into weddings now, which I love to see. So yeah, your photographer really should be getting pictures of all your details, not just in the morning with your bridal or groom prep, but also with the effort that you've put into your table plans, sort of your flowers, if you have anything at the ceremony. So yeah, really your photographer should be doing that for you. You should get that. I did actually see one photographer write a tip of, if they've paid for it, you should photograph it. So yeah, they should be, basically. So Annie has given a really good couple of questions, actually. Hello Annie, if you're on here. So Annie this is a really great question, actually. What happens if you're ill? So if it's a family shoot, hopefully you can reschedule that. Maybe not such a big deal. When it comes to weddings, obviously the urgency of that is ramped up somewhat, especially if it is very last minute and you've not broken your leg and you know about it a week or so in advance. If it is literally the night before or the morning of, that clearly is much more urgent. So your photographer should have a network of photographers that they have either worked with or know on a personal level, so that they have a similar style, similar package offering, so that should you fall ill, especially at the very last minute, your photographer is able to get in touch with other photographers and arrange somebody else to come and help in your place. For example, there's a lot of Facebook groups. Actually, Facebook has been really useful for this kind of thing. It's never happened to me, but I have, it does happen. You do see it, whether it's their own family emergency, or they're not well. Facebook there are several Facebook groups out there as well to help us reach out to other people in our area. So you're covered. It really is your photographer's job to talk you through that, actually, and have it in their contract that if that does happen, you know that they have a system in place. So Annie also asked, do you have a limit on the photos that you give in your packages, and do you charge for extras? So every photographer will do their packages differently depending on how they run their business, because it is a business at the end of the day. It's our life work. So it does sort of depend on how their packages work. My packages, I give every single best edited image. I give you all the images, the great images that come from your day, because it is your day, and I don't see personally why you should have to pay for one lot of pictures and then have to pay for extras. For me, that just doesn't work for me. I generally say if it's sort of an 8-hour wedding, you could expect anything from 400 to 600 photos, and again, that sort of depends on how many guests you have, how many details and things like that you have. Smaller weddings, you may well get less pictures because there are less people to photograph. So yeah, the way I do it is you will basically get every single great image from your day and not pay for any extras. But when you are looking for a wedding or family photographer, of course, double check that with them. They're there to help you at the end of the day. And I've just realised actually how white my face looks. This camera is awful. It just blows the highlights and I look ridiculously airbrushed. So maybe I shouldn't complain about that. But anyway, next question. We're going to move on to family questions. I only have a couple of those. So yeah, we're sort of wrapping up in sort of about another few minutes. So my last wedding question is, what happens if you have a candid shot, has perfect composition, but it doesn't meet your high quality? Would you fix or chuck it? So this can happen. It's your job as a photographer to be able to deal with any lighting situation or composition, I can't talk, composition situation, there we go, that comes your way. However, sometimes somebody might shout out something to you and you turn around to take a picture so quickly that you don't think to change your settings. Sometimes, basically, if the image is particularly emotive or important to your day, absolutely you will do everything that you can to fix it. It does happen that sometimes photographs aren't perfect. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say that photographers are perfect 110% of the time. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying. But basically, if a photograph is that important to your day, your photographer, I'm sure, will do everything that they can to fix it, or edit it, I should say, to within the high quality standard of the rest of your photographs. I think you would only ever chuck a photo if for some reason it was completely and utterly unsalvageable. However, with technology being the way it is nowadays, there is a lot you can do to sort of bring the quality up if you needed to. For example, if the lighting was really off. But essentially you should get all the best images of your day, especially from me. So does anybody have any other wedding questions, or shall I just move on to the couple of family questions that I've got? I think I might just move on. I had a couple of really good questions, but I will move on to family. So Emily was asking which colours in general are best to wear for a photo shoot. That's actually a really good question, and I would actually say it's not so much colours that are a problem as to what you decide to wear. So I personally would advise against, if you're wearing a t-shirt, keep it plain. I wouldn't have any sort of real big graphics or logos on your t-shirt, because in all honesty they generally look not very nice. Even if it's a really posh t-shirt, if you've got a whacking great logo, it doesn't look great. So I would suggest that you keep your clothing nice and neutral. I think jeans are okay. I would avoid things like hoodies or shorts, just because they can look a little bit shabby. That's just my personal opinion. But if you are looking for a particularly styled, or you just want to get the best out of your pictures with your outfit, speak to your photographer. It may well be that a particular place that you're having your pictures done lends itself to particular items of clothing. They can help you with a Pinterest board. And I'm not saying that you have to rush out to Harrods and get the most expensive, amazing thing you can. I think we all know now that you can pick up amazing stuff on the high street without paying a lot of money, and you can still look great. And I think actually with clothing, it comes down to feeling your best. If you put on a slightly smarter piece of clothing, it changes your mindset. It makes you feel different. It makes you feel more confident. So that's one thing that I would suggest as well, actually, is wear something that you would wear to a family function or a first date. But as always, speak to your photographer if you have any real queries over that, because they're there to help you. So Lil has asked a really, really, really good question about family shoots. How do you pose on really children? Essentially, if your child is not having a great day, they're having a bit of an off day, the way that I approach it, and it's actually the same whether your kid is really feeling it or not, is go at their pace. If your kid wants to play a game or wants to not have a picture in a certain place, they want to run off somewhere else and have a picture, go with them. Go at their pace. That generally works really well for me and how I work anyway. So it honestly, that kind of brings me on to my next question, actually, is it's all about sort of when you pose people, especially with families, is it's not so much about being cheesy, it's just about getting everybody together, playing games with them, making jokes with them. So yeah, as I say, my next question from, I hope I pronounce this correctly, it's from a photographer on my Instagram called Camille Decena, I think. I hope I've got that right. So Camille was asking, what's your favourite part of a family photo shoot? So my favourite part is, it's actually less to do with the kids, because kids will more often than not be themselves. Even if they're having a bad day, they will be themselves. Like, they will let you know they're having a bad day by being themselves, and that can be funny, and that can sort of turn everything around again if you go at their pace. But sort of my favourite part is initially sort of just letting the kids decide where we want to go. If we're in a particular place, it's like, do you want to go that way or that way, and making a little bit of an adventure of it. And the reason that that's sort of my favourite part is that by the kids doing their thing, it sort of relaxes the adults. It's often the adults that aren't feeling so confident, or need bringing out of their shell a little bit, and it's actually through being a bit of a kid yourself and going at the kids' pace that you then realise that the adults are really starting to enjoy it too. And that's my favourite part, because you are there to make people feel happy, to give them memories. So working with them as a family and sort of figuring out what works for them while you shoot, and seeing the adults come to life as well, is one of my favourite parts. So I'm just going to quickly ask if anybody does have any wedding or family questions. Now's the time to ask, because I'm just going to go to my last wedding question at the moment here from Jack, which says, are there any weddings you're exciting to photograph this year? Yes, because I am photographing Jack and Gianluca's wedding at the Pilgrim's Rest in Battle, and it's a really, really special little venue. Actually, I haven't done a wedding there yet. I've got another one next year. It's a really special venue. It's, if you don't know it, it's right on High Street in Battle, next to Battle Abbey. It's such a lovely little venue. It's perfect for smaller gatherings. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one, Jack, actually. Funny you should mention that. So if I don't have any more questions, yeah, I think I will just say some sort of general advice for your wedding is, if you do have questions for your photographer, ask them. There's no such thing as a bad question. Your photographer is there to help you make the best of your day. Oh, Annie's just said my brother's getting married there. It's gorgeous, Annie. If you haven't been able to have a look, it is lovely. Yeah, so work with your photographer on timeline, group shots. If there's anything that's maybe worrying you, ask them. They're there to help. Some personal recommendations from me is, if you really want to pay extra attention to your details and how your day looks, think about employing a stylist. And part of the reason for that is, it's really easy to look at Pinterest and look at Instagram and be overwhelmed with the options that are in front of you, and not know how to put it together, and feel that you have to spend a crazy amount of money to make your wedding look a certain way. You don't. Pick elements that are particularly special to you and go with that, or work with a wedding stylist. And one of my personal favourites is Amy at The Timeless Stylist. Look up for her, The Timeless Stylist, on Facebook and Instagram, because she has a really great approach to styling weddings. It's very classic, very elegant, very beautiful. No chair covers or sashes inside. And yeah, just sort of on a last note of making it personal, I think people feel that there's only certain ways to have a wedding. So it's either registry office or church, or having a registrar. You pay for a registrar to come out to your venue. It's just quite costly, actually. But the other way that you can do it by making it more personal is having a celebrant come to your wedding. And basically celebrants, they can do all sorts for you. They can do poems or create readings for you if you're not quite sure what you might want. They can do hand fasting. There's a really great there's a great couple actually called, who I've worked with before, Jason and Kathy at Mr. and Mrs. Smith Celebrants, based in Hastings. They do some really cool stuff, actually. They are so lovely. It kind of feels like working with friends or family, actually. They have come up with some really cool stuff, like a gin, I think they call it, I might be getting this wrong, guys, but like a gin ceremony. So they had a couple that both loved gin, and they created sort of readings and a ceremony around their love for gin, and how one person is like the gin, the other person's the mixer, and together they become the gin and tonic. And I just think that's a really cute personal way of doing a ceremony. And that just kind of wraps up nicely, especially for weddings, that keep it personal. Pick elements that are really important to you, talk to your photographer, and yeah, have the day that you really want. So I hope this has been useful. If anybody does have any questions at any point, please feel free to ask me. That's what I'm here for. Yeah, and I'll see you soon. Bye.